Blake Burrow is a talented country recording artist who hails from the town of Tulia, found all the way up in the panhandle of the great state of Texas. Now, he played his first shows at the Blue Light in Lubbock and quickly gained a following. And in 2016, Blake recorded his first album, Cotton on Concrete, which showcased his unique sound and songwriting ability. Now, Blake's music is a reflection of his Texas roots with a blend of traditional country and some rock influences, and his lyrics are honest, heartfelt, and often drawing from personal experiences and the world around him. His newest single, Don't Blame It on the Bar, is literally a song with all the elements of being a hit record. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome country recording artist Blake Burrow to the show. Welcome, Blake.
Thanks, Ward. Thanks for having me.
Man, you're a fellow Texan.
I am. I mean, I think there's different parts of Texas that you could say. I guess I'm a panhandle boy. So you have your different sections. You got the South section. You got the real. People are like, "You're from West Texas." I'm like, "No, I'm from the Panhandle. I don't think we claim those people out in West Texas." So.
No, there's not that many out there in West Texas, by the way. But what was it like growing up in Tulia, Texas?
Man, it was your typical small town. I mean, we probably got into more trouble than we were, should have. I mean, I remember, we I did the I was in church youth and church choir, and then we had our little, I never really drank. I didn't drink in high school and didn't drink till I was 21, and so we would find other ways to, probably cause mischief, and we had a nice collection of road signs, if that's any.
Yeah,
Which,
I grew up in a small town, so you end up with that collection of, well, street signs, sometimes road signs, or you're taking batting practice on country roads on mailboxes.
well, we didn't do any of that. We tried to do that, but I mean, even though it was frowned upon, federally it's frowned upon to get those signs.
I gotcha. Well, how did you get into music being in such a small town?
Well, I was very blessed. My mom and dad both loved music, and they were, in church choir and did all that stuff. And my mom made me, and I have three brothers, and she made all of us take piano lessons when we were younger, and I started when I was 5. And I was the only one that I guess showed any musical ability, and so I was the one that had to play piano up until I was in high school, and I took lessons, classically trained, and then was in a thing called Amarillo Boys Choir back when I was younger. I was like 7, 8, and 9, and we would travel. We would go to, I think we played in Phoenix and at like the symphony orchestra. We sang behind a symphony orchestra. We went to some different cool places and did different things like that. And then I guess that's when I knew that I could sing a little bit and started singing in the praise and worship band. And then my junior year, I moved to play drums. I just kind of taught myself how to play, and so they moved me to the drum section. I don't know how good we were, but then when I went to college, I mean, I always sang, and then when I went to college, I started out leading worship at a small church called Colonial Baptist Church there in Plainview, Texas. And when I went to Wayland Baptist University, I played baseball there and started out as a praise and worship leader. My first couple songs that I wrote were praise and worship songs, and then I've always had a deep draw to country music, and but also I have a strong faith, so the cross in between both of them is very very close. The way that country music and gospel music kind of blend somehow, and one derived from the other. Country music basically derived from gospel music, and so um, it had a huge influence. And one of the first concerts I ever saw was Charlie Robinson, who just passed away um,
Right.
recently. But I was like, man, I just loved the way that he wrote songs, and it was just kind of a draw. And I moved to Nashville after my senior year of college for like 6 months, and I realized I needed to get better at what I was trying to do, and went back to Texas. And but that's where I actually started playing out live, was in Lubbock. You said the.
Well, was it a cultural shock for you to step off the let's say so step off the bus in Nashville and realize it's a whole different environment?
Well, it was, and I knew people. My cousin lived out there, and it was very much a you hear stories of guys leaving and coming back, and then coming back. It's I think you have to. Some people are just comfortable in their skin when they get off the bus when they're in Nashville, and some others they have to grow into who they are and find their sound before they make a run at Nashville. And I learned a lot. I met a lot of awesome people that are still in the music industry, that from writers to people that work for labels and stuff like that. And so just working at the Wild Horse back in the day, I met there's 3 or 4 people that I met, and they're all working somewhere in the industry. Um, but I wouldn't change it for anything, because I met a guy by the name of Weston Davis, and he was kind of the first guy that I wrote with, and he was on Magic Mustang Publishing, and had written songs for Thompson Square and for Kit Moore and some different people. And this was after I left, but he always told me, he's like, Blake, everything's been said. He's like everything in country music's been said. He's like, you just got to find a different way to say it.
Well,
And so
the
that
thing is, outside of Nashville, for country music, the best scene is still Texas.
it is. And I loved the way Texas did their stuff, but also a lot of me is very 90s country, and on the new record there's some very 90s stuff, but there's still a lot more influence from the big sound that Nashville brings in when they record and stuff like that. And
Well,
I wanted.
who are your early musical influences?
Well, my first concert was the Beach Boys. Actually, my mom used to throw on the Beach Boys. There was an a cappella group out of Amarillo, Texas. I don't know if they're called the Sharks, and I used to put. They had a tape. I don't even know if you can find it anymore, if they're even together. But I used to listen to that, and my mom would listen to Elvis and Beach Boys, and my dad would listen to some more 80, 70s rock like Steppenwolf and stuff like that. And my granddad would listen to the traditional country, Merle and Waylon and all those. So I had a very eclectic sound. And my parents listened to country music, but I guess I really started listening to it more when I was in 4-H. We'd have these 4-H dances, so gotta remember the songs that you want to know how to dance to whenever you're asking girls to dance with you. And so that was kind of. George was a big one. I didn't really have a. It was like Black Hawk, Chris Ledoux, um, George Strait. Um, and then later on, it's become more of like a Keith Whitley, Vince Gill, for the older, like Keith Whitley, Vince Gill, and then like Waylon and Merle. But like I just love the '90s style. Like I could sing pretty much any '90s country, even some of the '80s, like the big harmony groups like Shenandoah and
Well,
Blue
the
Blue Skies and
'90s were rock and country. I mean, country music ruled the airwaves. I mean, rock could barely get, you know, 2 songs on the radio because country was ruling everything. You had Garth Brooks, you had Alan Jackson, and Randy Travis. I mean, they owned radio.
they did. And I think that was kind of that '90s, just growing up in the '90s. That's kind of what I just remember listening to. And then as I've progressed into what I love, like I love guys like Chris Knight and Charlie Robinson and even his brother Bruce Robinson, and then just some of the Texas guys that are very songwritery, like Robert Earl Keen, and just seeing their stories, and then you see, the different side of country music that's come out on, like with Tyler Childers and like uh, the Zach Bryans, and just the country is such a wide base, and I still love like guys like the way that like Hardy and Morgan write. I love the way that they write. Like I mean, I've met some of the most brilliant songwriters in Nashville. I mean, they're just guys that you're just like, I know why you're here. I know why, because you know how to write a song, and I try to get out there enough to at least learn and to hone in on my craft as a songwriter and be able to deliver the songs that I feel that fit me the best, to my audience.
Well,
So
yeah.
that's
I mean, your new single, "Don't Blame It on the Bar." So I kept listening to that song over and over again, and I'm like, it's reminding me of something. And then the closer I started listening, it reminds me of the likes of a bit of Jason Aldean or early Kenny Chesney, but the songwriting is more in line of someone like Chris Stapleton. So the song is fantastic. Was this based on a life experience?
what I mean. It was, but it wasn't my life experience. I mean, I was in. So we go to a place called the Red Door Saloon usually after we write music in Nashville. It's right there in Midtown, and a buddy of mine who's also a singer songwriter artist, Joey Green. We write a lot of songs together. He was one of the co-writes on the song, and we were sitting there, and he had gotten into a little scuffle at the Red Door, you know, a couple months back, and was kind of on a hiatus from there, forced hiatus, I guess you could say, for about a month, and then we're back in there, and I go, we were just talking about it, and I go, man, don't blame it on the bar, and he said, write it down, and then we went back to the house and started working on it and then finished it up that next day. It was kind of late when we got back, so we just had the idea, and the next day we wrote it in about an hour and a half. So it just kind of came together, and the flow of the song and what we wanted to say was all there, and so it just kind of made sense.
Well, it's a song that should be on the radio. It's got that strong radio airplay sound to it, which you got to have. And because the moment I listened to it, I'm like, this is a hit song, and I say that honestly because the writing is excellent. The music, of course, your voice just fits the song perfectly. And I also understand too that you have a new album coming out called Faded.
I,
When is that going to be
I did.
released? And yeah, when is that going to be released? And what should we expect from the new album?
So the new album Faded, that's another song that we wrote, and it just kind of the idea of a memory fading from somebody, but it kind of coincides with being in a bar, like faded under neon lights. Someone else, like you're putting the pain and the pain together, and so you're trying to fade the pain with something else, with alcohol or whatever else it is, and so that was kind of the idea on that song. But the record is going to have either 10 or 12. We've recorded 8 so far, and we're going to get back in the studio in November and finish up. We have 3 or 4 more songs that we want to do, and so we're trying to pick which ones will fit the rest of the record, because we have so many that we could put on there, but we want to make sure it fits what we're trying to do and trying to convey to our audience. But I'm excited. It's you know sometimes I get to listening to records, and my whole thing was I didn't want to have any song that was kind of the same. I mean, we have songs that sound like I have a song that is very 90s. There's two or three songs that sound very 90s country, and then We have some stuff that has the big guitars like the Jason Aldean, the big Luke Combs type guitar stuff, and then I don't know. We wrote a couple in the last 3 or 4 months, a couple new songs that they might make it. We have three that are already in the holding pen for to go record, but we've written some in this last year that I'm like, there's probably out of the 10 or 15 that I've been a part of, there's like three or four that I'm like, those could definitely be on the record. And so we're just trying to see if they fit what we're trying to do on the record. But I'm excited. It's probably going to be March. We'll release a couple singles here and there to kind of get people, give them a piece of the music every 4 or 5 weeks, and then I'm excited because my first record was great, and it was something that I will never take away, just because it was my first record, and it was a learning experience, and everything we did was so new to me that I didn't know what I wanted, and I didn't know how to say it, especially to the musicians in the studio, or stuff like, or to my
So you didn't
producer.
know if you were doing it right or doing it wrong.
That's right. And so it came off, and then we were on a budget back then, and so I mean still on a budget, but um it just I found that some guys in Nashville that really believe in the product, and in the studio, and you know think there's something very unique that to my voice and what I have to say. And so I mean that's all you can ask for whenever you're trying to do music with your peers and people that are in the studio with you.
Well,
So
it's so funny because you bring up 90s country, and 90s country is making this very big resurgence across the country. A lot of the 90s acts are back on tour, they're selling out their venues. And then all of a sudden, we see on the radio that Luke Combs and Shenandoah came together to record 2 Dozen Roses, and it hit number one.
yeah, I mean it's pretty crazy. People are, not that there's anything wrong with with some of the newer Nashville stuff, because I've written songs that are in that same vein, but people want real. They want authentic, and they want real, and they want. I mean, some of the biggest artists are just, Zach Bryan was a guy that just played his guitar on his first record, and it just kind of skyrocketed. Now he's selling out stadiums. I mean, it's crazy, and people are drawn to what they can connect to. And
That's right. And the thing about country music fans, they know the difference between what's real and what's manufactured. You can't pull the wool over the eyes of country music fans because they know. And I think the country music establishment is alienating the fan base a bit.
I think, there's a lot of different factors. I know that it's a big, you know, I don't know enough about the industry, and I don't, have any say. I know people that are in it, and do different things, but I know there's enough room for every type of country that is out there. Between the pop side to the honky
Well,
tonk side.
that's a very good political answer. Are you going to run for office?
You're not the first person that's asked me that.
Well,
Probably better, probably be better than half the people that are in office. So
I have to say though, you're really correct because there's a wide range. Uh, Country music is used for, and I'm going to say not by the artist, but by the record labels as a training ground for certain acts that may cross over into the pop side. So I think they
mhm.
use the country base to do that. It's very blatant to see it. But I do like your diplomatic answer. And it keeps you in the safe zone. And
It does. It does. Keeps me in a very safe zone.
I get in the side of trouble by stating fact and truth sometimes when it comes to country music. But, like I said, the fans want the real deal. They know the difference and they'll support those that are real. But I can't wait for your new album, Faded, to come out. Now, when you release that full blown album, you got to come back here and we're going to talk about those songs.
I'm excited. I want to do that because each song is very very different, and you can tell that each song is very different. And the next three songs that we're probably going to put on there, I'm excited because I think for me, I think they're some of the best songs that I've ever been a part of. And so, as far as writing and the deepness and just the melody, and so I'm super pumped on that side, and just I'm hungry. I love to play for people, and I love to see people's reactions to songs. They're like, "Oh, you wrote that song," and I'm like, "Yeah." And so you just, especially if I played a song one time at a benefit, and it's a song that's on the record called "Over It Yet." It's a very very deep song about everybody else around you can forgive you, and then but the hardest person to forgive sometimes is yourself, and that's the
That's right.
you're you're your own worst enemy sometimes of trying to get over stuff. And so um, it just kind of conveys that deep song. And a guy came up to me in tears after the song and just said, "Man, that song means a lot to me. I appreciate you singing it and writing it." So and that just kind of puts us in a place that just makes me strive to do what I do.
Well,
Um,
when the new album comes out, I'm sure you're planning to do a tour with it.
we are very much hoping to hop on a multi-state tour, and then also we're working on trying to get some support, some open and support acts for different guys that we can hop on tour with them for a weekend or two, and just try to get my name out there and get these songs out there. So
Well, that's what it's all about. It's all about grinding and pounding the pavement. And ladies and gentlemen, you got to head over to BlakeBurrowMusic.com for all things Blake. And when he comes out with that brand new album, Faded, well, get ready to buy it. And not only that, when he comes to your area on tour, go see him live. Because here's the deal, you can't beat pure Texas country music. Because Nashville's got some big competition. And well, here in Texas, we are the biggest. How about that, Blake?
I love it, Ward. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, head over to BlakeBurrowMusic.com. Check out his music, his upcoming tour dates, and the brand new album that will be released in the next few months. And keep an eye out for some of those new singles. And you've got to take a listen to Don't Blame It on the Bar. You got to take it from me. When you hear this song, you're going to know that is a pure country music hit. So download it, but I'm going to tell you to do something even better than that. Buy the single. That's what makes music continue for all of us. So again, head over to BlakeBurrowMusic.com. Check him out. You're going to be a brand new fan. I can guarantee you that. And as for me, I'll be right back with more.